Okay, so on this question says the sum of two consecutive numbers is negative 97. Find the value of the greater number. Now that's not an easy question. First off, we got to become clear. What are consecutive numbers?
The same number.
What if they say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are hoping to win the Super Bowl again this year, and that would be consecutive Super Bowls, right?
It's two numbers next to each other.
Next to each other, one right after the other, right? Consecutive numbers are one right after the other, right? Consecutive means in a row. So for example, it would be like 23 and 24, or 87 and 88, or 112 and 113, etc. Is that making sense? Consecutive numbers, they come right after each other. So therefore, if the first number, so that means we're talking about two numbers here. So if the first number is x, I'll just use x, let me change the color. So if the first number is x, what would, and I'm just making that up because I don't have any idea what the first number is. So I'm calling it x because I don't know what the first number is. So if the first number is x, and I know they're one right after the other, they're in a row. If the formula for the first number is x, what's the formula going to be for the second number? How much higher is the second number in every case?
X plus 1.
Yeah, beautiful. Does everybody see that? When they give you consecutive numbers, you just use x and x plus 1. Is that making sense? Because the second one is always one higher than the first. That's what it means to be consecutive. It goes up by 1. X and x plus 1. Okay, so what? Well, then it says the sum. It says the sum, excuse me, is, we always know that's equals negative 97. So the sum is negative 97, right? So the sum, that means this added to this. This means x added to x plus 1. See how, again, we have two x's? Is negative 97, right? X and x plus 1. The sum of those two formulas. Again, the common mistake I've seen over the years is people will only put x plus 1. They'll think, well, that's both of them, because they just kind of look at it and they go, well, that's two things, that's both of them. No, x plus 1 is just one of the numbers. That's just the second number. And then x alone is the first number, and you got to add both those to equal for the sum to be negative 97. Is that making sense? So we almost always end up with two x's or two whatever the letters are in our formulas, in our equations, I should say. All right, now let's solve it for x. Let's do it. Okay, so how do we get? We got 1x and 1x. So we know that means 2x, right? Plus 1 is negative 97. Got x and 1 below, so subtract 1 from both sides. Boom, boom. 2x. Isn't that, if you use your calculator there, or just think about money, if you lose $97 and lose one more dollar, right? They're both negative, they're both lost. You lose 97 and lose 1, you've lost $98. Divide by 2, boom. X is minus 49. So x is minus 49. Now, it says to find the value of the greater number. The greater number. That's kind of weird. Well, so the only way I'm going to find the value of the greater number is if I know what both of the numbers are, right? I got to know both the numbers, or I'm going to have no chance of getting whatever the greater one is. I won't even know. Okay, so my first number that I have here is negative 49. Okay, so that's what x is, I should say. X is negative 49. So that means anywhere I have X, I can plug in to it negative 49, because that's what X is. So let me plug in right there, negative 49, and right there. Because X, that's what this says down here. Wherever you see, the mystery's over, wherever you see X, you now know it's negative 49. So what's this second number? Negative 49 plus 1, which is negative 48. So this little ending part is going to be tricky. I want to show you. So the two numbers we're talking about are negative 48 and negative 49. Right? Or you could have just subtracted from the negative 97, because you know their sum is negative 97. So when you got the first number of negative 49, you could have, but that's confusing with negatives. I would just plug it in. You know X is negative 49. You know that. So plug that in here and plug that in here. That's why you want to do this step. Don't skip this step. I really encourage you not to skip this step where you write first number, second number. I notice lots of students want to jump right to here. Write this step out, and then you'll know what to do at the end. You'll plug in that negative 49 right here and right here, and negative 49 plus 1 is negative 48. Or you could just subtract from the total, right? Once you get the first number, the negative 49, you could just subtract from negative 97. All right, anyway, long story short, there's my two numbers. Now, they want the greater number. Which one's the greater number? Well, careful. This is a little tricky. Let me show you. Let's put these guys on a number line. And let's say 0.
Negative 48.
Right. Here's 1, here's positive 1, positive 2. So if you look at negative numbers, way back over here is negative 48, and here's negative 49, right? Negative 1, negative 2, etc. It's going to be like that. So the greater, this one is greater because it's further to the right. In other words, if you're talking about your bank account, what's a greater situation? $48 in debt or $49 in debt, right? They're both negative. They're both in debt. I've been there. Maybe you've been there too. What's a greater situation? Well, you'd rather be 48 bucks in debt instead of 49. The greater situation, even though they're both kind of bad, is $48 in debt. That's the greater number because it's less negative, you see. That's a little tricky, isn't it? You've actually got to take the one that's less negative. That's the greater, the bigger, the better situation, right? Tricky. So our answer then to the question is negative 48. So how do we find the two numbers again? Well, they're consecutive, which means it's x and x plus 1. So we added x and x plus 1 to equal negative 97. Solve for x, negative 49. So then we had one of the numbers. How do we find the other? Well, I plugged into the formula right here. I plugged in x is negative 49 plus 1, got negative 48. Or you could have just subtracted from the total of negative 97. Just taking minus 97 minus negative 49. Get double negative, you would actually become plus, and you'd get the negative 48 that way. However, get the two numbers and then put them on the number line. You can tell the greater one is the one that's less negative, actually, negative 48. And so that's a hard problem. There we go.